president of the African National Congress, and what South Africans been saying for the past few years under the Rona scam. Welcome to our family meeting. This is Chris live in Somerset West, where shocking developments continue to unfold in South Africa's tense post-election environment. Shocking news indeed, folks. Jacob Zuma has lost the plot. Or has he lost the plot? Is he the clever politician that some make him out to be? Well, tonight there's an op-ed in the Independent line which carries the water for Jacob Zuma and presumes that everybody fell for the narrative that many in the media fell. Well, I'm not one of those people that fell for the media, and I have fell for what the media narrative was, and I've been correcting the record all along. And we're going to talk about that, but first we're going to talk about the threats posted by Jacob Zuma today after the court case that took place in Gauteng at the Electoral Court. Jacob Zuma once again making threats to public safety. So let's get into that. I'm going to be reading some verbatim stuff here so that you've actually got the comments coming from Jacob Zuma. So I don't want to misquote him because we've had trolls come on here and say that, oh, well, you know what you're talking about. He never said that. Well, we're going to quote him once again in his own words. So this is coming from News 24. And Contoisi's Way party leader Jacob Zuma warned the Independent Electoral Commission today that it didn't know what his party was made of and that they would do something that had never happened before. They will lay charges against the electoral body. Jacob Zuma is not threatening public safety here, but this time threatening the Independent Electoral Commission, trying to intimidate the independent body a second time. And he's saying that they will take them to court and charge them with criminal action. Now, for his part, Jay-Z, the octogenarian, fell asleep during the court hearing today. Yep, and he called on his members to listen to their leaders. Now, that's where I say he nuanced things, because Jacob Zuma used more diplomatic language, more leader language today when he actually, I'm going to move that back a little bit there, when he told his followers to listen to the leaders. What that means is that don't be running off just doing your own thing, but actually listen to the party leaders. So that's a call for restraint in my mind. Far cry from what he said Saturday night, but then he's been dressed down a little bit over his comments. So he was addressing members from his political party outside the electoral court in Gauteng in Johannesburg. And he claimed with no evidence that his newly formed party, MK, won the 2024 national elections outright. Jacob Zuma, whose party received 14+% of the national vote, is claiming tonight that his party won the election outright. So somehow, if he won it outright, you'd have to have 50 plus 1. He is exactly 35 plus something else short. So he is claiming that over 1/3 of the vote was taken away from his party, presenting no evidence whatsoever. He claims he has evidence, but he's not done it. Now, this is what Zuma said, and this is where he comes to the conclusion that his party won the race. Now, this is beyond belief. This really makes you gobsmacked about what kind of nonsense people can come up with. Okay, so he said, we campaigned thoroughly. South Africans believed in us. Really? All 16 million of them? Somehow I doubt that. And if you campaigned so thoroughly and people believe in you, why didn't you bring out more voters than the 2.3 million who voted for you? Why didn't more than 16 million people vote? Or are you claiming that's not the true number? So he says that this is the comical part from Jacob Zuma. Where does the Democratic Alliance get so many votes? Where does the ANC get these votes? Because they've joined the MK party in numbers. So, Jay-Z, are you trying to make the claim, the assertion, that people who have voted for the Democratic Alliance in the past have flocked to the MK banner? Are you delusional? Are you smoking crack cocaine? Are you even lucid at this point? You are trying to tell us that people who voted traditionally for the Democratic Alliance flocked to the MK party. That's implausible on its face. That just doesn't make any sense. The argument that ANC voters and former ANC voters would flock to MK makes all the sense in the world. And I've already covered this and analyzed this and explained that many of them obviously did. But where did this DA get so many votes? What are you talking about, Jay-Z? The DA got fewer votes than they got in 2019. In 2019, the Democratic Alliance got 3.6 million. This time, they got 3.5 million. Their percentage went up slightly, but that's because fewer voters turned out. So they get 3 more seats in parliament. But it's not like the DA did very well. You honestly think you're going to convince people that the DA suddenly, it's like you act as if the DA was a 1% party and they suddenly came out of nowhere. Look, I'm not defending the Democratic Alliance. I'm simply stating the facts here. This is ridiculous on its face. And the problem is that low information voters, poorly educated, dumbed down South Africans will believe this garbage. Will believe it. He said, we appealed before the results were officially announced. That's true. Upon hearing our complaint, the IEC rushed to announce the results. That's simply not true. That's simply not true. Multiple complaints were filed before yours. Your complaint wasn't the first filed. Yours wasn't the only complaint filed. They didn't rush because you filed the complaint. That's an assertion that has no basis in fact by Jacob Zuma. I wanted to tell them not to make the mistakes before they fixed the mistake we showed them. That's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, this is where we got dangerous here. He said, they are provoking us. We haven't left this matter alone. We are going to walk slowly with them. We are the smartest in South Africa. We won't back down. Well, you may be the craftiest in South Africa, but you're certainly not the smartest. I'm going to get to the floods and the tornado a little bit later, folks, but we're focusing on Jacob Zuma's behavior right now. So thanks for tuning in. I can't see who wrote that. I will get to the floods. It's pretty hectic. Was it Connie? Connie, I'll get to that coverage in a little bit. We're going to have more comprehensive news tonight for this late night edition. But I just want to get to this story because this is a breaking story. It's occurred in the last couple hours, and people need to know about it. Before you read about it in the press and they try to paint this in a different light. Hear objective, independent, cogent, thoughtful analysis from someone that doesn't have a dog in the fight. I don't have a vote in South Africa. I don't own anything here. I simply cover these events objectively. So I will get to the weather, though. It's been pretty hectic. I got caught in some of that weather today, but it was mild compared to what people in the Eastern Cape saw. Yeah, and in KwaZulu-Natal. But it made it all the way over to the Western Cape, some of that weather. So, all right. The former president said the MK party was going to lay charges against the Independent Electoral Commission. Well, he's welcome to do that. I'm not really sure how that works. He wants to file a criminal case against them. That's fine. Now, this is where he nuances what he said. So he jacks up the rhetoric and the tension, and then he notches it down a level. He said, let's remain calm. We will deal with them until the matter is concluded. From that, I infer that he wants people to listen to MK leaders as they seek a court process against the IEC. Do not resort to violence. Now, that's much more nuanced message than what Jacob Zuma was putting out Saturday night. But he has lost the plot here. Now, he took a bunch of digs at Ramaphosa saying that he couldn't vote for a leader who hides money under the mattress. Hey, you got to give it to Jay-Z. I hear you, man. Why haven't we had a criminal investigation into the perversion of justice, the customs violation of $580,000 when you and I enter South Africa? We're only allowed to enter South Africa with $10,000 currency, foreign currency, or the equivalent in other currency. $10,000 and or 25,000 Rand. That's it. But the Sudanese businessman who mysteriously bought cattle that never left the Pala Pala game ranch brought $580,000 in. Let's see, that's 58 times the allowable amount. Oh, 58 times. That's pretty impressive. No criminal charges filed against him. No currency violations, no customs violations, no perversion of justice for what the press and the police have admitted was an illegal investigation and purportedly torture of the suspects who robbed the Pala Pala ranch. So yes, Jay-Z, spot on, 100%, brother, with you. You are correct. Now, a lot of South Africans were hoodwinked, and a lot of ANC loyal were hoodwinked by the sham ethics investigation took place by Parliament. They determined that because he's a member of Parliament, that he had not committed any ethics violations. Now, that is implausible on its face. But that really doesn't matter. They say he's innocent. That doesn't make him innocent. No ethics violations does not make him innocent of a criminal charge. He hasn't been charged. Why hasn't he been charged? It's a good question. Kind of like Joe Biden, stolen documents. We're waiting for that. So, he said, regarding answering the question whether he would resign from the African National Congress, who he's still a member of. Jacob Zuma is a member of the ANC, yet he's trying to control the MK party. This guy's playing both sides. He's pretty crafty. He said, I won't resign from the African National Congress. They must know I'm away from the ANC. I love its members, but I hate its leaders. We are not new to this game. I have ears within the ANC. And they told me that senior ANC leaders are fighting amongst themselves. Well, that's what IOL told us. We don't need your ears. We know that. What I heard from my sources is scary. Well, what we've heard and what we surmise is also pretty frightening, Jay-Z. He said their leader, which is his leader, he's a member of the ANC, their leader, Cyril Ramaphosa, wants to join the people the DA fought against when we wanted freedom, the Democratic Alliance. Other leaders are opposing him, saying they don't want to go that route. Now, see, this is a fundamental problem with the race-hustling, racist African National Congress. The statement from Jacob Zuma is disgusting, vile, and race-hustling on its face. Their leader wants to join the people, the DA, we fought against when we wanted freedom. Are you a moron? or are you simply race hustling because you see the DA as a white party, even though the majority of the party is coloreds? So when you fought for freedom, murdering people in Quattro, or being accused of murdering people in Quattro, I should say, to be more accurate, when you fought for freedom in Quattro and members of the ANC were tortured and murdered there, were you fighting to free South Africans from coloreds? Because that's who make up the majority of the Democratic Alliance. Coloreds, not whites. And do you realize that the Democratic Alliance didn't exist under apartheid? Your party did, the ANC. MK didn't exist, DA didn't exist. Its antecedent roots go back to the liberal movement against apartheid, you race hustling toady. You race hustling toady, Jacob Zuma. This is the crassest, basest resorting to vile and evil politics you can imagine. Playing on the fears of ignorant voters who see the Democratic Alliance as a white party. They're not a white party. They're the most racially diverse party out there. Again, I have issues with this party. It's a leftist party. It claims it's not, but it is. It's leftist center. But that isn't germane to the issue here. The truth is what matters here. And this disgusting, vile attempt by Jacob Zuma to paint the Democratic Alliance as a national party. Now, I'm going to flip this on its script. I'm going to flip this on its script because you, Jacob Zuma, are a member of the African National Congress. And who is in the African National Congress? The National Party is part of the ANC. Oh, remember that? You scumbags? You and the new National Party under Van Schalkwyk merged in the 2000s. Remember that? You gave him the tourism ministry position. You bought him off. And what was left of the new National Party, the party that won 20% of the vote, almost a quarter of the vote in the first elections, merged with the ANC. So the people you fought against were the National Party, dipshit. And guess who the National Party is? They are the African National Congress. They are you. Look in the mirror, Jacob Zuma. You are the National Party. You are the race-obsessed socialist party running South Africa. Just like the National Party. No different. You are them. And to attack the Democratic Alliance, one of the fighting group of people who fought against apartheid, is vile. It's a perversion of history. It's disgusting. And the fact that no journalist in South Africa has written anything tonight to call this scumbag nonsense out is a disgrace. It's a disgrace to the history of this nation. It's a disgrace to people who fought for freedom. It's a disgrace to the Black Sash movement. It's a disgrace to Steve Biko and the Black Conscious movement. It's a disgrace to the Pan-African Congress and AZAPO. Some of those people I have no interest in whatsoever or care about, but those people did more to fight for freedom in this country than the ANC ever did. And the ANC merged with the National Party. You are the people you claim to have fought against, you lying sack of Ferdcock. Unbelievable. Wow. Wow. Could he possibly be more blatantly ignorant or hustling in race? Jacob Zuma went on to continue to say, when I started to notice the ANC didn't listen if we tried to convince them, I decided to go underground. I spoke to a few comrades, telling them how to tackle the ANC. After seeing that those few people spoke big English terms, I decided to do it on my own. Once again, more subtle racism. Big English terms. Really? So what does that mean, big English terms? You got a problem with the English language? He does. It's a colonial language in his mind. Well, because they spoke English, he decided to do it on his own. Well, not everybody speaks Zulu, hero. You're just one of 12 official languages. The largest in South Africa, but one of. He said, Jacob Zuma goes on, he says, I mapped everything alone. I also met with Jabulani Kumalo, his brother and a friend. And I told them I couldn't go and register the party. I told them I wanted to form a new party called Mkhonto weSizwe Party. Now, why couldn't Jacob Zuma register a party? Is he a criminal? Is he hiding from someone? Is he fearful of someone? The former president of the Republic of South Africa, who has presidential security protection, an octogenarian who's lived 8 decades or 7 decades plus on this continent, in this world, and he's afraid of registering a political party? This is just nonsense. Nonsense. Now, he tells us why I couldn't register the party, and I'm going to tell you it's nonsense. I couldn't register the party independently because the ANC members would know. Oh, God forbid. I convinced Kumalo, his friend and brother, to register the MK party because I prevented the ANC leaders from noticing our plans. So you want to win an election in a democratic society, but you're cowardly enough, you won't go register the party because the ANC might know about it. Well, if you're not doing anything untoward, what are you worried about? If you're so popular, why do you need to be clandestine to register the MK party? Do you see the nonsensical horse manure coming out of these comments? The man has lost the plot. Why must he hide the formation of MK? Why must he do it clandestinely if he's so popular that he's won the election outright? People will just fall at his feet. They'll come rushing to his standard. They'll support him like Louis Liebenberg and the Zulu have done. So tell me, Jay-Z, why are you so, what's this? Jerry Matabe is a troll. Jerry Matabe, I'm reading Jacob Zuma's comments, dipshit. So if you think it's rubbish, the rubbish is coming from Jacob Zuma, not from me. I didn't make these comments, Jacob Zuma did. So footsec, piss off, be gone, troll away. He said, Kumalo once came to me saying people were asking who he was. I advised him to remain silent. If they persisted, he must tell them Jacob Hedlin Zuma was behind our new party. But you just said you couldn't tell anybody that you were behind the party. But when Kumalo approached you and said, hey, people are asking who I am, what should I tell them? Then suddenly you could say, well, Jacob Zuma is behind the party. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. What exactly is he up to? What exactly is he up to? So let's let Jerry continue his race hustling for a couple more minutes here, and then I'll ask one of my moderators to give him a timeout. Not yet. Let him continue his race hustling so he's on the record, exposing himself as a black supremacist and racist on this channel. Come on, Jerry, put a few more comments up there so we can see that you're a racist. Expose yourself, and we'll go on from there. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So it just attracts the worst sort of people when you tell the truth. So Jacob Zuma has indeed lost the plot. Now, the IOL carries the water for Zuma. It really does. So in an op-ed by Sipo Sepe, he says, from Ramaphoria to Ramageddon, MK party shatters the long-held false narratives about Jacob Zuma. Well, first off, this is a fawning op-ed that is meant to puff up Jacob Zuma. So let me just talk about a few of the false narratives that he's talking about, which are not false narratives because independent journalists like myself have been saying this all along. In 2018, when Cyril Ramaphosa became the president, I gave a lecture, the Great Decision Series, the Ivy League University lectures I did at the Army War College. It's online, you can watch it. And I was very generous to the African National Congress. I said they had one more chance to get this right. They had one chance to address the ills, the poverty that they've subjected South Africans, especially black South Africans, to for the past 15 years. But they have to be serious. Ramaphosa claimed he was going to tackle corruption. He must actually tackle corruption. They must remove racist legislation like BEE in order for the economy to flourish. They must stop enriching cadres and start taking care of regular South Africans. And that's what I said in 2018. I also said that Ramaphosa is not a great businessman. All of the Ramaphoria, particularly the leftist woke media, said, which is what he's arguing about the woke media, and he's right about that. So the woke media said, oh, it's Ramaphoria. He's a great businessman. This will be so much better than Jacob Zuma. And I said, no. Ramaphosa is a fraud. He's not a great businessman. He's wealthy because people handed him his wealth. Ramaphosa was handed his wealth. He was given equity stakes in corporations that he did not earn because his patronage position within the ANC. So I dispelled in 2018 the fact that he was a brilliant businessman. I also point out in 2018 that if you're angry with Jacob Zuma, bear in mind that his deputy president for a number of years has been Cyril Ramaphosa. So if you're angry with Zuma, you should be angry with Ramaphosa, who was also on the stage at the time. I also dispelled that myth that he's blameless. I've also said for the longest time that Ramaphosa is not popular, particularly with segments of the ANC support base, Zulu in particular, but not exclusively. Ramaphosa is a Venda, not a large population base in South Africa, and like it or not, ethnicity plays a role in South African politics. I mean, look what happened to the referendum party. Many people didn't vote for them because the leader is a Brit. It's actually factually incorrect. Phil Craig is a South African national, not born here, but a national. He chose to become a South African. That speaks volumes about people who move to another country and become a citizen of that country, particularly when you give up a first world passport like Canada, the US, or Australia to become a South African. That's a serious commitment to a country. But again, people don't see the truth. So Ramaphosa, not the great popular person that people claimed he was. Now he's going to talk about this. I'm going to go into this and read some of the text from his op-ed that appeared today, Sipo Sepe in the IOL, which once again is carrying the water for whomever they like on the left. He said, many political observers have reacted with both shock and awe to the astounding performance of Mkhonto Sizwe in one of South Africa's most contested elections. Indeed, to borrow from U.S. military jargon, MK Party's performance is nothing short of Operation Desert Storm or decapitation. Well, decapitation is not a U.S. military jargon, and Desert Storm is not military jargon. It is the name of an operation. So first off, learn your terminology. You're wrong there. Never has a ruling party suffered such a humiliating, crushing defeat. In South Africa, perhaps, but in other countries, ruling parties have suffered greater defeats. But nonetheless, and he correctly points out that since Ramaphosa has become the president in 2018, the ANC in 2019 and now has dropped from 62 to 40% in the electorate. 100% correct. And he said, the feigned bewilderment by the media fraternity at MK's performance is a self-created crisis. I don't disagree with him there. While the media was talking about MK and dismissing it, I was saying that MK is a threat and they would be the largest party in KwaZulu-Natal. I'm on record. You can check it out. My videos have said the MK would win outright in KZN. In fact, I said the ANC could wind up being the second, third, or fourth largest party, depending on how well the DA does. Well, the DA didn't improve, so they're the fourth largest party. But the ANC slid to third behind the IFP, and now they're third. And they could have been fourth. Nationally, I said it's difficult to predict because I don't know the level of support they have in the Western Cape, which is probably low, in the Northern Cape, which is undetermined, in the Eastern Cape, which is unclear. But I did expect them to do well in Mpumalanga, in Gauteng, a big Zulu population in Gauteng, and then moving outright in KZN. So based on that, based on the a few weeks before the election, I said they're going to come somewhere anywhere between 7 and 13%. So I was slightly wrong. They came in at 14%. So I'm not one of the media who believed the nonsense and ignored the polls and dismissed MK. I took them quite seriously. I remember what happened when Jacob Zuma was locked up in 2021, when the government sat back and allowed it to happen and did nothing about it, and allowed an internal insurrection in the African National Congress. If you recall, those who were here at the time, I was the one that predicted that on June 29th of 2021, and I warned people, and I covered those events for hours on end every day from thousands of miles away and gave better coverage than the media here in South Africa. Let me continue with his op-ed. So the bewilderment arises from the fact that many political observers and political players bought into their political misconceptions, blatant lies, and deliberately crafted false narratives they created for themselves. Well, I think he's right there. People have blinders on, particularly the leftists in the state-owned and state-influenced media here in South Africa. He said just a few weeks before the elections, and I said they become victims of their ingrained prejudice against former President Jacob Zuma. Well, that may be true. That may be true. But a lot of these people have ingrained prejudice against the DA, and they're not victims of that, and against everybody. The leftists have their own agenda in the media. Just a few weeks before the elections, Gate McKenzie, the leader of the Patriotic Alliance, sounded a stern warning. Addressing the Daily Maverick Roundtable, McKenzie was unequivocal, and I quote, this is what Gate McKenzie said: Jacob Zuma is the wrecking ball of this coming elections. Anybody that's not worried about Jacob Zuma has not been paying attention, or they're simply playing to the gallery. And on that, I agree 100%. He was correct when he said that. Jacob Zuma keeps people busy at home. They're strategizing on how they can stop him. He's filling up places wherever he goes. So I'm not going to sit here and say he's not a threat. Well, I didn't think he was a threat. I thought that he was a legitimate electoral challenger. However, his actions are making him a threat now. But his point was an electoral threat. Anyway, yep. He said, and he continues, says, unlike McKenzie, the Zuma haters are in a legion. They've been hard at work to convince themselves, and those who care to listen to the MK party's impact would be marginal at best. Well, I haven't. I've said MK would do incredibly well. They would win KZN outright. Where I was wrong in that assessment is that I expected that MK would get about 35% of the vote. They won 45% in KZN. So they beat my expectations. But I fully said they would be the number one party weeks before the election, despite the fact that the party was imploding. You'll watch my videos, you'll see that I say they're imploding, yet they're still popular. They didn't have a manifesto. They didn't have an office headquarters. They didn't have a budget. They didn't have any plans. They didn't have a ground game. Yet the cult of personality around Jacob Zuma was so strong that that party was still surging. So, and he goes on to talk about Johnny Steinberg, the crime analyst who's frequently published. By the way, I wrote to Johnny Steinberg recently and asked him to give me an interview. Never heard back from him. Maybe it went to the wrong email. To the chagrin of both Becky acolytes, Steinberg argued that in 30 years of democracy in South Africa, the most talented political player to emerge by a country mile is Jacob Zuma. I won't argue that. He alone is mined down to the tectonic plates deep under South Africa's social formation, shifted them to produce a politics that brings him power. Nobody else has come anywhere close to doing that. Well, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Following this week's electoral performance, the self-appointed authors of his political obituary, who've been very busy in the last years, would have to quickly revise their manuscripts. Well, again, I'm not one of those people. I took MK seriously, but I will tell you this. MK is a fad. When Jacob Zuma fades from the stage, whenever that may be, in a year, 6 months, 10 years, he's 81 years old. When he fades from the stage, MK will disappear. It's a vanity project. It's a cult of personality. Doesn't mean that they're not a force. He said the outcome of the 2024 national elections dispelled the long-held false narratives that has shaped the political discourse the last 15 years. So let's see what the false narratives he's talking about here. Central to these is the major chasm that in the lived experiences and the haves and have-nots in South Africa. So once again, we're getting to race hustling. A few false narratives are arguably central to the sense of bamboozlement experienced by the media fraternity. Not by me. A significant number of voters have rejected so-called 9 wasted years mantra that's been propounded by all and sundry. Well, yeah, I've even said that in the past. It was 9 wasted years, and it was. Now, he's going to go on to tell fairy tales about the investment in education, despite the fact that educational outcomes continue to decline throughout Jacob Zuma's time in office and also through Cyril Ramaphosa's in office. So you can invest all the money you want in education. If the outcomes diminish, then you're doing something wrong. And he talks about infrastructure, but this is not exactly accurate either. Anyway, but yeah, I was one of the people that said 9 wasted years, but it's been 15 wasted years. Everything's been wasted under Cyril Ramaphosa. And by the way, I'm also one of the few analysts that's told you that Cyril Ramaphosa has overseen more theft, more corruption, more kleptocracy than Jacob Zuma ever saw. But the media, which this guy's alluding to, have termed this state capture concept and tagged Zuma with it. But Ramaphosa was part of state capture era. And he has put it on steroids ever since he came out. Who has been prosecuted for PPE theft? Who has been prosecuted for all the other corruption scandals? We know that Zandile Gumede is finally in the docket now, but Ace Magashule, Zwelin Kizi, not even charged. Mr. Munir Palapala, nothing. All right. So what else did he say here? He said that the recent national elections have all but pulverized the heretofore widely propounded false narrative that Ramaphosa is more popular than the ANC. No, ladies and gentlemen. I told you in 2017 when they had the party conference that Ramaphosa is not popular. And I know that because Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, a thoroughly reprehensible reptile of a human being that nobody likes her. The ANC shipped her off to Addis Ababa to get rid of her and forced and upset the apple cart and broke the mold for who gets to be the chairperson of the African Union. I was there when she was the chairperson. Nobody invited her to anything unless they were forced to. Nobody wanted to be around her. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, so unpopular, yet she came within 35 votes of becoming the president of the African National Congress in 2017. So all the Ramaphosa was garbage from the beginning, and I said so, and I continue to say so. So I don't agree. Not all of us were hoodwinked by that. Let me see. Let me see what else they said here. He said Ramaphosa enjoys support he gets from ANC only on the basis that he's its president. The other support he gets is from sworn enemies of the very party he leads, like the media. The latter saw him as a Trojan horse to bet on for the destruction of the ANC. With the support of the ANC reduced by almost 17 percentage points in one election cycle, Ramaphosa's funders must be pleased. Okay, now there's an unfounded allegation. So he's claiming that Cyril Ramaphosa is on the take. And this is not bad. He can say what he wants, but he's got no evidence of it. Again, I have no like or love for Cyril Ramaphosa. I've excoriated him over and over again, but you have no evidence of that. He said, third, the characterization of Zuma as the embodiment of ethnic mobilization. The lazy characterization was recently repeated by the current chair of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe. The support of the ANC by the mainly Xhosa-speaking South Africans in the Eastern Cape or the Tswana-speaking in the Northwest Northern Cape is never characterized as inspired by ethnicity. Oh, but it is. But it is. But it is. Most people over the years have said that the Xhosa largely support the ANC because of the history of its leaders coming from the Xhosa people. And the Tswana have long supported the ANC by and large. Not as a bloc, but generally speaking. So he's wrong here again. Indeed, no less than an important figure than President Ramaphosa has sought to appeal to this backward notion of ethnicity in his response to the social unrest and uprising response to former president's incarceration. So let me ask you this question, Mr. Sipe, who wrote this op-ed in the Independent line. If ethnicity isn't the reason why Jacob Zuma so popular, then why are Afrikaners and English and Xhosa and Tswana and Venda and Basotho voting in droves for the MK party? If ethnicity doesn't play a role, then if he's so popular and he's got all the answers and he's the right guy, then those people should have voted in droves, as Jacob Zuma claims they did. He's upset that the DA got less votes than they got last time, saying, where did they get all these votes? Well, they lost 100,000 votes from 2019, Rocco. Pay attention to what's going on here. Unbelievable. So, responding to the utter nonsense, political analyst come economist Moletsi Mbeki argues that the ANC often pulls either the race or ethnic card when it's in trouble. Cyril was targeting the whites, the white prejudices, let me say. He wanted to tell the whites that there are these Zulu bloodthirsty savages, but he's going to deal with them using the army and the police. So that was the strategy for allaying the white fears. That was the intention. He knows that there was no such ethnic mobilization. Cyril knows how to manipulate the white population. He plays on their prejudices. Well, if Moletsi Mbeki, who's a rather smart economist, said that, I'm stunned. First off, he didn't use the army and the police to contain the Zulu. In fact, he allowed Zulu to run rampant and destroy KZN and parts of Soweto in July of 2021. Remember that it was 4 days before Munir Palapala stopped saying, "Where's your mosque? Where's your mosque?" and addressed the insurrection taking place within inside the ANC in July of 2021. 4 days before he got his ample bum into a BMW 7 Series in a 14-car Escort and drove down to KZN, jumped out of a car that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then in his $10,000 suit walked over, picked up a spade, got a shovel of that spade, dumped it into a wheelie bin, and made a big smile like he was making a difference after lives were lost, after stores were looted, after total chaos, crematoriums were attacked, radio stations were attacked, people were murdered, ammunition was stolen, the police were helpless, the military was useless. 4 days in. So no, Cyril Ramaphosa never gave the impression he would use the military police to contain the Zulu people. And why would white people care about the Zulu being contained? That is a racist position. Who cares if the Zulu are contained? Many white South Africans have great affinity for the Zulu. Many whites live in KwaZulu-Natal in harmony with Zulu. So this is just nonsense. He said, fourth, the new false narrative that's been propounded is that the support of the MK party is a mere protest vote. Inherent in this false narrative is the usual racist insult that reduces Africans to unthinking mob. Well, maybe it is from the mainstream media. It's not a protest vote. The protest vote from the ANC, dingus, is exactly what I said in July 2021. ANC voters won't go to the polls. They're not going to vote for another party in a protest vote. ANC voters don't go, you know what, I'm angry. I have no service. I have no toilets. I have a pit latrine at my school for my child. I'm going to vote for the Democratic Alliance or the Freedom Front Plus just to show the ANC. What nonsensical garbage is that? Utter garbage, utter nonsense. Cyril Ramaphosa? The false narrative. The racism coming in here is this op-ed. Wow. Usual racist insult that reduces Africans to an unthinking mob. The Democratic Alliance in 2019 won 18% of the black vote in Gauteng. I don't know what that percentage is yet because I haven't seen it broken out, but I suspect it's higher this time. That's not an unthinking mob. And people don't vote for the DA to get even with the ANC. That's just ludicrous. DA voters will vote for Freedom Front Plus to teach the DA a lesson. ANC voters will vote for PA to teach the ANC a lesson, but they're not going to vote for the DA. That's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous on the face of it. And Africans aren't an unthinking mob, but there is a dumbed down electorate. I mean, when you send someone to high school and you tell them they only need 30% in chemistry, 30% in science, 30% in maths, and 40% in their first language, if it's Xhosa, Venda, Afrikaans, and they graduate, and you give them a piece of paper saying you're a high school graduate, do you honestly think anyone's going to employ a functionally illiterate person like that? No. But you've misled them and hoodwinked them into thinking they're educated with your dumbed down education. Not the writer, but the ANC. So the characterization of mainly African people only serves to feed the demon of white supremacy. Ah, here we go. White supremacy again. Oh my goodness. Here we go. There can never be anything rational that would make people vote for the MK party or any black party that, for that matter. Interestingly, so the vote for the DA or the Freedom Front Plus by mainly white constituents is never racial or irrational. If truth be told, any vote for the opposition is necessarily a protest vote. Okay, first off, dingus, Mr. Sepe, you need to get your head out of your ass and do a little research. Once again, for the 1,000th time, the majority of voters for the Democratic Alliance are not white. They're colored. They're colored. Good God, you don't have to be a mathematician or a particle physicist or frickin' Stephen Hawking to figure that out. In the Western Cape alone, it's pretty obvious. 17% of the population of the Western Cape is white. It stands to reason about 17% of the electorate is white. The Democratic Alliance won 52% of the vote in the Western Cape. That means, even if they got every single white vote, which they didn't, ACDP got votes, COPE got votes, Referendum Party got a handful of votes. Freedom for Plus got votes. So all the white voters that they took didn't go to the DA. So the DA at best, 17% of that 52%. So that's 17%. You take that away 20, that's 32, add 3. 35% of the vote wasn't white. It was black or colored or Indian. There aren't many Indians in the Western Cape. But there you go. So that's just nonsensical. It's race hustling. It is the garbage that feeds the nonsense in South Africa and in America and now in Europe of this perpetual victimization by black supremacists. This is a majority black country with a majority black party ruling the country, and they've destroyed it. It's not white people's fault. Yeah, there's white racists, but there's black supremacist racists too. Good Lord. Unbelievable. Let me finish this paragraph with the glasses on. The characterization of mainly African people, it only serves the demon of white supremacy. There can never be anything rational that will make people vote for the MK. Well, yes, there is something rational, and I said it. I read the manifesto. I analyzed the manifesto that the MK party came out with. It is a vile, repulsive, race-hustling, racist narrative that rejects the rule of law, rejects South Africa's constitution, and rejects civilization, and pines for the 18th century empire of Shaka in its essence. Many people find that very appealing. That's not irrational. Lots of people love for someone to give them land they steal from someone else. Lots of people would love for someone to steal money and give it to them and not earn it. That's not irrational. That's greedy. Unbelievable. Regarding Zuma's support, Maletsi explains Zuma has support amongst the poor. We have always known this. Everybody has known except his enemies within the ANC. He doesn't come from the elite like the Eastern Cape, like my brother and Mandela. He's not the son of a policeman like Ramaphosa. He's just an ordinary person who is a migrant worker. That's why they identified him. No. Yeah, that's true to a point. Jacob Zuma was the head of intelligence for Mkhonto Sizwe. He was present in Angola. He's actually one of the few MK veterans that's really a veteran that actually did something during the apartheid era. Not simply claimed membership after the peace was in and said, now 100,000 MK veterans. What a joke that was. If there were 100,000 MK fighters, they would have presented a threat to the South African Defense Force. They never presented a threat to the South African Defense Force. All they did was murder innocent people with blowing things up. So that's just nonsense. Jacob Zuma is not simply a village boy. It's not as simple as that. But yes, he does appeal to the poor and to the illiterate and even to the educated. Jacob Zuma is very appealing. He's very personal, very characteristic, and charismatic for many people. But he also presided over one of the greatest thefts in the history of the Republic. He also presided over a collapse in education. He also is now acting like a 6-year-old, making threats because he didn't get his way, claiming the implausible that his party won this election outright. That's simply not possible. And his argument for is, well, how did the DA get so many votes? The DA lost votes, buddy. They lost votes. Keep up with current events. Keep up with current events. All right, so that's that. Let me get to the chat, and let me get to the weather real quick. Then I'll get to the chat. Okay. So first off, man, there was a storm in KZN. Ooh, this was at Tongat, and it was also in Durban Central Business District and Balito or Balito, however you guys like to pronounce that. A tornado hit. Tornadoes don't hit South Africa. When did this start happening? Tornadoes. That's insane. That's insane. Absolutely insane. Oh, wow. The storm hit parts of KZN. It was most likely a tornado. I saw the video that was being passed around. That was a tornado. Wow. A meteorologist in South African Weather Service Durban office Cipfalizile Dalamini said all signs pointing to a tornado after analyzing information. Well, thank you for that meteorological input, but I think I saw it. I don't need a meteorologist to tell me. Unfortunately, folks, the hectic storms that Jax reported to us, was it last night, that were taking place in Eastern Cape. She said the power went out much of PE, Cabana, Nelson Mandela Bay, and that there was flooding all over. I did get a video last night of a fire station in Uitenhage, which was flooded. It was hectic. 9 people are dead in those floods. Thoughts and prayers to those who lost their lives. And over 2,000 homes have been displaced, 2,000 households. This is pretty sad. Crazy weather happening here in South Africa. Eastern Cape government has activated disaster management teams to provide relief to communities affected by flooding, mostly in East London and Gabbera. At least 9 people, 7 in Gabbera and 2 in East London, while others were presumed to have drowned in the floods that hit the province, and the number is going to climb. More than 2,000 homes were destroyed in Duncan Village, Stony Drift, Mazamomle, and Mdantsane in East London. Nelson Mandela Bay Mayor Gary van Niekerk said 600 residents were evacuated in the Lapland informal settlement in Kariga due to the adverse weather conditions. More than 3,000 people were affected in Nelson Mandela Bay. Also destroyed several properties in Blue Horizon Bay, Gabbera. Gift of the Givers has already been out. They visited victims in Gabbera and East London on Sunday and again today to offer them warm meals and clothing. Once again, Dr. Suleiman and what the Gift of the Givers do is absolutely amazing. They give it from their heart, and all the people who donate to them, bless you. Buffalo City Metro Mayor Princess Faku said a 13-year-old girl was rescued by police in the Amalinda Forest. Well, thank goodness for that. Residents in informal settlements are the hardest hit. We've spoken with officials in the Department of Human Settlements to get temporary shelters for victims. We're looking for parcels of land to move residents that are safe and not prone to floods. Well, the fact that people are allowed to illegally squat in floodplains is part of the problem. We saw this unfold in KwaZulu-Natal. There are consequences to lawlessness. There are consequences to not following the rule of law. And while we can be sympathetic to people who steal and occupy on vacant land, there's a reason why some land is vacant. If you're in a floodplain, you don't build a residence there, or you get washed away during a flood. Now, I'm not preaching or condemning the people who move their homes there, but authorities in the ANC that have ruled these places for decades are responsible for enforcing the rule of law, preventing people from moving into land that sits in a floodplain or occupying land that is not available. And this is where lawlessness has a role. People die, there are consequences to it. We're looking for, she said, admitted infrastructure was aging in the metro. Aging? Yeah, no doubt about that. We do not have enough resources to replace the damaged infrastructure. We need national government to come to our rescue. I'm looking at a picture in Blue Horizon Bay, and it's hectic. I can see entire, sand just washed away. And that's another thing. I just came from Betty's Bay today and Pringle Bay. And when you build your homes on sand and you expect to survive a storm, that's crazy. Duncan Village resident mother of 5, Nomzambo Nokonga, 48, said she needed temporary shelter, adding her children were unable to attend school as their uniforms are wet. Hang them up to dry unless it's still pouring rain. So the floods happened the early hours of Sunday. I was woken up by the stuff that fell in the kitchen. Next minute, water was all over our shack. All my food has been destroyed. That's a shame. It really, heart goes out to her. All my belongings are wet, and we had to seek shelter at a relative's house. Yeah, that's crazy. Same. It's really sad. Gift of the Givers Eastern Cape coordinator Corrine Conradi said teams have been dispatched to East London and Gabbera. Many of the shacks are on the brink of collapsing. It is critical now that people are moved to places of safety as more rains have been predicted. Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane visited visited the victims in East London. Government urges communities to exercise caution and be extra vigilant, especially in areas prone to flooding, and follow regular updates and warning messages from South African Weather Service. Please follow South African Weather Service, folks. There's more bad weather coming. Wow, I start talking about the weather and everybody disappears. What's going on there? We dropped 100 viewers when I start talking about the weather. All right, let's get back to, let me get to the comments here. And probably some pretty robust. I'm going to skip a lot of the comments, so don't take offense because it's been running for a while now. I've been on for 44 minutes. Charles Van Olsen was here at the outset. Kaza is here, dropping a bucket. Freelance Kate, promise smoothies. The DA didn't do well. The elections were okay. Most of the opposition parties lodged complaints. You can't announce until all the objections have been sorted out. Promise smoothies. I've covered that already, and I agree with much of that sentiment, except for the comment that was rigged. You have no evidence that was rigged. You've said it yourself in your comment. You have to wait until the objections have been dealt with before you can make such a complaint. There's no basis to that complaint. You can feel that's the case. You can state you believe that to be the case, but you can't say it unequivocally. Connie's in Israel. Wow, thanks, Connie. Theodoros Moro Esperides is back. Zuma equals Trump. Not really. Zuma is not Trump. Dawn Leopold says, good evening to you. And then Fleshton's in from the UK. Clive Streak is here. Elmy 5 pence from Uppington. Nick Stevens, maybe needs new mattress in a comment. Seems Pala Pala's for sale, so on auction site. Well, I'll check it out. Apparently you can get cattle there for $580,000 and get a refund. Eric is here. Hey, Erica. Sean Folshank is here. This doesn't have a username. How do you not have a username? MKP Mkonto. Oh, okay. Mkonto Wisizwe Party says, hi. Well, I hope you're well, too. Your words only confirm what all smart people understand. You're afraid of Zuma. He's so bad that you consistently throw dirt at him. Okay, well, first off, whatever this Greek thing is, dobro, I didn't throw dirt in Jacob Zuma. You're a dingbat, and you're just spreading garbage. I never said that. Afraid of Zuma? Please, spare me. Not afraid of Jacob Zuma. Sandy Hunt says, in our mainstream media prop up this dialogue. DA Zilla exposed the story of Steve Biko. Yeah, exactly. Helen Zilla actually has genuine liberation credentials. At the risk of her life, she exposed that the police murdered Steve Biko, and we only know about the circumstances of Steve Biko's death because of the courageous journalism that Helen Zilla did during the apartheid era. Yet the ANC can call her a whore. They can call her all kinds of names. The bigotry, the misandry, the racism present in the ANC is epic. Yep. No, she has genuine liberation credentials. You're correct, Sandy. I've reported on that many, many times. 1 of 440. Apartheid's new council, the ANC. All right. And there's Vinant Meyering says they are dangerous. Welcome, Vinant. And who else we got here? Nicholas Ndelangas. I wonder why non-Africans talk too much about Africans. What's wrong with these settlers in our forefathers' land? Racists shall never govern this country. We don't want racists to leave Zuma. Well, Nicholas Ndelanga, you sound like a racist and a black supremacist. Why do non-Africans talk about Africa? Because your shit affects the world. And some people actually care. You know, you run your mouth about America all the time, so you can footsec. I can say what I want. I'm an actual historian, political scientist, and someone that's actually accomplished something in life other than a little troll that shows up in here. So footsec, piss off. All right, Her Royal Highness Prince Chibukula, welcome to you. Jerry Mateba said I talk rubbish. Well, that's because you're a dingbat and don't listen. Patrick says Martinez van Schalkwijk was the only reason the ANC had Cape Town for those few years. He's elected minister's position. Yep, exactly. Exactly. The ANC and the National Party are one. I haven't forgotten. Why is it black supremacists have forgotten that? Karen says, lots of trolls say, oh, of course, it's because I put Zuma in the title. Going to see a lot of them, Karen. J-Pat, do you think MK will set KZN ablaze and attack? No, I don't think MK is going to attack minorities. Some of their followers that get out of hand. But right now, Zuma has urged caution, told people to behave themselves, and listen to their party leaders. So it's a possibility. You should be prepared for it, but I'm not saying it's going to happen. Jerry Matamba says, go to America and start your white capitalist party. Hey, Jerry, take your middle finger, move these 2 fingers down, take this, stick it in your backside, and rotate on it. How you like them apples, buddy? Yeah, that's a pretty graphic image, isn't it? All right, so what else we got here? Myra's here, Elmy 5 pence. I already said Charles Van Onselen. William Rawl, if he registered too early, his comrades would have been reading together deals and sent him to jail. Ah, well, maybe that's true, William. That might be what happened there. I wish I were you. I would just comment about DA only. Well, Jerry Mataba, then you can start a YouTube channel. There's no prohibition against it. You just can't use the K word in South Africa, but you can pretty much say whatever else you want. Start your YouTube, Jerry. Send us a note, and so I can subscribe to it so we got to hear what you've got to say. Okay. Mr. Everything Mzanzi, I voted for the MK party, and your perspective is from the internet and case studies. No, Mr. Everything Mzanzi, you don't know what you're talking about. My perspective is from research, lived experience, and knowledge gained from 40 plus years of experience as an intelligence analyst and as a journalist and as a soldier and as a person that's lived in more places in Africa than you can ever imagine. So you don't know what you're talking about. So thank you for trolling. Yeah, you can't make a cogent argument. You just make an unfounded statement. Thank you for that. Amazing how people care more about skin color of a president than these scumbags throwing more and more people in perpetual poverty and not vocal about it. Exactly. They don't care. They just care about skin color. Troll is droll. We want our land. We want our land. What land is that? Please elaborate the land, Nicholas and Longus. What land? You don't own any land. The land claims have been settled, all but about 1,000 of them. MK says, what is wrong with you guys? Can you really listen to yourself? Is there more good things he says, but you always search for the bad things? I guess this came too early at 10:20, and hopefully you hung around there, MKP, and heard what I said about Jacob Zuma. I said he's crafty. I said he's smart. Yeah, so anyway, what else we got here? Keep your Europe, we keep our Africa. Well, Nicholas, then you're going to have to tell about 100 million black Africans to footsec from Europe. They have no business being there, if that's your argument. But that's a pretty race-based argument. We're Homo sapiens, and all of us came from Africa. So the fact that some of us come back home to visit and some came here to live permanently, that bothers you? Does that give you chest pains? Okay, Peter Empire's match. It's also not anyone's Africa. It belongs to China. Well, there you go. Don't base it on ethnicity. We practice democracy. You shove down our throats. Now we're tribalist. Your perspectives based in case studies. No, once again, Mr. Everything Mzanzi, you're Mr. Everything wrong. Mr. Everything falsely inferred. What case studies? What case studies? I don't make case studies. Yeah, Nicholas, give back your English name. My name is Neville Wilson Curtis. I'm Cecil John Matthew Rhodes. Her Royal Highness Prince Chipakula says, South Africa is a true meaning of diversity. We have a challenge. Old failed politician want to destroy it. Thank you, Your Royal Highness Prince Chibukule. You are correct. We do have politicians trying to destroy things. Okay, MK represents all black people. No, it doesn't, Nicholas. No, it doesn't. Not even remotely. Okay, what else? Ndonga's back. You said ANC would get 30. No, I didn't, Ndonga. You're a liar. You're a fucking liar. I never said that. Total lie, total fraudulent. Call him out. Ndonga, you're the liar. You said the ANC would get 50 plus 1. Go back and watch my videos. Look at this shithead coming in here and lying. I said all along, since November of 2021, that the ANC would get 38 to 42% max. I prayed they would get 33%. And Ndonga got called out for being a fucking liar. Oh, man, you lie. Pinocchio and Ndonga, welcome to the program. Welcome to the program, Pinocchio and Ndonga. Wow, you're a lawyer? Is that the sort of stuff you put in trial? Your Honor, I'd like to introduce this evidence I just pulled out of my backside. Hang on, here you go. This is what it is. We're going to claim the colonel said 32%. My goodness, hundreds of thousands of people will tell you that you're lying. All the videos will show that you're lying. I never said that. Not once. Not once. You are so desperate to mislead people that you must lie. It's comical. It's sad. Ladies and gentlemen, Ndonga, the lawyer, must pull out lies. He's been silent. Ndonga, the ANC will succeed. 50 plus 1. They will get it. They will have it. You will see. They will rule into perpetuity. He was saying this 3 days before the election. Oh my goodness. Ndonga, are you serious? Well, Sammy, Gayton can negotiate with EF, but what's that going to come to? The EF has 9.5%. Gayton has 2%. That's 11.5%. Where are they negotiating? Where do you get your info from? Well, let's see, Mr. Mzanzi. I get it from research, data from Statistics South Africa, from my own analysis, from my lived experience, from interviews with a host of people who actually participate in these events, people who are influential. Yep, a whole host of places. Yeah, Charles corrected him. Yep, and so did Paulie. Would have thought that people voted for MK because of Zuma. Well, I think so too, Conrad. That's why they voted for MK. If the party had been led by Jabulani Kumalo at the election, I dare say that they would not have gotten 15%. They might have gotten 4 or 5%. Zuma's warming up for rebellion, says Jan Filion. Okay, colonizers and apartheid divide us, but now you shall never divide under MK. ANC is Project Stellenbosch. The Stellenbosch Mafia. The African National Congress was founded in 1912. You're telling me that 1912, that the Stellenbosch Mafia existed and that it created the ANC? Wow, that's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that insight. So, I'm drawing a blank now because that just really doesn't, I mean, I really, the ANC, wow, I did not know that they were the Stellenbosch Mafia. So Plotky was what? A white supremacist? Was he really? Or John Dubé, were they white supremacists and all part of the Stellenbosch Mafia? Please regale us with this history of South Africa. Wow. I didn't know that. That's fascinating. Thank you for that, Nicholas. Be proud to be an outsider. What's it? Paulie says. Yeah, Ndonga's blowing hot air. Both Jay-Z and CR are involved. Okay. Juan Oliver says, are you not the guy that said EF is the future and turns? Oh, that's Ndonga, yeah. No change, says Mr. Mzanzi. Okay. J. Pat, I just found a truck full of voting slips. Okay, well, please share that with the IEC or the press. I thought the NC would only get 33%. Yeah, that's why CR17 campaign donors' details are placed under seal. That's a good point. That's never been resolved. That CR17 and all the money that was stuck in there. Laudine's been here since the beginning. Laudine Monday, welcome to you. Yeah, so how are we doing on likes? Okay. Brian Lawrence's here. Ratio X CMC SA. I don't see Afrikaners voting for MK. Nor do I. Although somebody in Orania voted for EFF, which means an Afrikaner did it, or there are really actually black or colored folks up there. Gen 2 is a type of penguin. It is. Okay. Juan, they are the future. Remember, Zuma took their KZN and vote back when MK came up. When MK inevitably dies, says Ndonga. Okay. All right. What else? Strues Bob is back. I haven't seen Strues Bob in donkey years. Welcome back. Chris Ehlers. Well, let's say Mbeki is not an economist. He's a journalist by profession. Okay, is there a third Mbeki brother that I'm missing? Maybe I confused it. Is there another Mbeki brother? Thabo Mbeki's brother is an economist by education and experience. So are we talking about a different Mbeki? Did I get it wrong? I'll accept that in Ndonga if I got it wrong. But his brother is an economist, not a journalist. At least beyond. Okay, that's okay. What else we got here? I'm catching up on the chat here. Pierre Orban is here. And Dlamini Sabelo, like him or hate him, Zuma is dearly loved by indigenous South Africans. The MK party made it without media coverage. Suddenly now the repulsive media is reporting MK. Actually, no, MK, that's simply not true, Dlamini Sabelo. First off, there's no such thing as indigenous Africans. Certainly not the Nguni-speaking peoples. They're colonizers. If you want to talk about indigenous Africans, then you're talking about the Khoi, the San, and their descendants, the Coloreds. So I'm pretty sure that Coloreds, by and large, and Khoi and San don't have any special affinity for Jacob Zuma. I've met many Khoi and San and a lot of Coloreds in my experience in South Africa, and I never heard one of them ever sing the praise of Jacob Zuma. Maybe they support him and they weren't sharing that, but it doesn't seem to be prevalent. I've met a lot of Zulu, and they love Jacob Zuma, but not many of the indigenous people of South Africa. The Bantu-speaking peoples, the Nguni-speaking peoples are colonizers from West Africa who came down the Rift Valley, displacing the Pygmies in the Central Africa, displacing the Neolithic people, and then turning south, coming down, displacing the Khoi and San, crossing the Zambezi, then the Limpopo River, invading Southern Africa with their cattle herding ways and their empire building ways, displacing people who had been in the region for at least 50,000 years. Of course, there were other Homo sapiens before the Khoi and San. So no, that's simply not factually true. So stop with the race hustling, colonizers, and settling, because if you're going to talk about colonizers, you have to talk about the Nguni-speaking peoples as well as Europeans. And the media has covered the MK party extensively, and not always in a negative light. What else we got here? Conrad says, I think MK got the votes they did because people thought they voted for Jay-Z. Yes, that's right, Conrad. That's right. Andre says, ignore the trolls. Well, I did. I wasn't even looking at the trolls. I'm just going through the chat now. Choco's here. Welcome. Paul Doveton's back again. Good to see you then again. Yeah. Mr. Mzanzi says, lies. Which lies are those, brother? You're going to have to elaborate because we don't know. It's a while ago. How many women did Zuma rape and murder in Camp Quattro? I don't know, Clive. I don't know if he did any of them. Gavin Sounders says tornadoes do hit South Africa. Yeah, but they're not a common occurrence, are they, Gavin? It's unusual. I mean, tornadoes can happen anywhere, but our Midwest is the tornado alley. We get tons of. EFF has not come. Okay. Who's Jax? Jax who? Stop living the past. Leave it. Okay. Dylan Kruger says KZN votes for MK and shortly after the plagues. I don't know about that. All right. EFF resonates with young. If ANC goes to bed with right-wing DA, I'll change my vote. Okay, see, this is where you can't take Ndonga seriously. Ladies and gentlemen, the Democratic Alliance, based on their manifesto, is not a right-wing party. That's simply a lie. They believe in state ownership of the means of production. They believe in state-owned enterprises. They believe in social welfare. This is not a right-wing party. This is the desperate rantings of a man who claims to be a lawyer who clearly doesn't know how the political spectrum works. The Democratic Alliance is not right-wing. The ACDP is right of center. The Freedom Front Plus is right of center. But the DA is not. It's a left of center political party. It's just not radical and nonsensical like the communists in the ANC and the EFF. Ants, a lot of peas, drainage system blocked with garbage. Of course there are ants, and so a lot of people are going to be hurting. In America, does one man own a dam? I have no idea. Some farmers probably own dams on their property that they built, I'm sure. Sedgefield. So, DA believes in helping, says Chris. I don't know if that's true. Cohen Frey says, Ama Abantu, but okay. Well, I don't speak, so I'm not going to try to do it. So thank you, Cohen, for whatever it is you're sharing there. Anyway, folks, be sure to hit the like button if you don't mind. We're down to 244 people. It is a bit late. It's 11 o'clock here at East Coast in South Africa. Once again, I'm in Somerset West, and thanks. We had a lovely meet and greet tonight. Chris was there. Pete was there. Alex was there, and Garrett was there once again. Really cool stuff. Nehemiah Frederick says, first of all, there's no such thing as color. We're black, whether you're a Nama, San, Khoi, Karana, Griqua. Blacks are colonizers. Where do you get the stored history from? I get it from archaeological evidence, from linguistics, from history, from the DNA. All of this stuff comes together and proves for a fact that the Nguni-speaking peoples were not present in South Africa until about 1,500 years ago. It's simply a fact. The Khoi and San were always here. And if you consider yourself black, that's fine. But the coloreds are descendants of Khoi San, people who were brought as slaves from Indonesia and Malaysia, and Dutch, French, Huguenot, German residents of Western Cape. Very specific. The fact that you have a black parent, white parent doesn't make you colored. It's a historical group that sprung from the liaisons of people in the 17th century and their descendants. And that's a fact. They tend to speak Afrikaans, they tend to be Dutch Calvinist, and they have very specific, by and large, facial appearances. So you can deny that all you want. You can deny it all you want. Most people who are colored are proud of the term. It's a term of pride. And there are different colors. There's the Cape colors, the Griqua or mixed race people. They don't consider themselves black. You can say that all you want, but it doesn't make it true. Doesn't make it true. But thank you for being here, Nehemiah. Thank you for sharing. RJ's back. Land for success. Let ideological districts compete based on... I have no idea what you're saying. That's just a mouthful there. All right. So Johanna Renica fighting for revote, massive irregularities, playing deep style from... Yeah, no, there is this talk about a revote. That's not going to happen. That would be kowtowing to threats. And yeah, Northern Cape, ANC, 49%. Wow. Eastern Cape, ANC 62%, but that's 62% of a 50% turnout. In the Free State, 52%, they held their own there. In Gauteng, just 35%. And in KwaZulu-Natal, the ANC at just 16.8%. Mpumalanga, they pulled it out. They were trailing. They got 51%. Northern Cape, as I said, 49%. So, they don't know who we are, says Jacob Zuma. Threatens action against IEC over the MK's big votes. Claims that the IEC stole their votes by Jacob Zuma. And his comments after attending the Electoral Court trial session today, in which Jabulani Kumalo is trying to get Jacob Zuma removed because he said the documents that Dududzile Zuma Sambudla sent to the IEC were forged. Charles says the colors were never considered white enough under apartheid, not considered black enough under ANC. True statement. True statement. That's a true statement. And they've always been left out in the cold. What could be worse? I do not follow your argument. Can you elucidate? What could be better? Oh, it's Ndonga. Black is an absurd term. No one is black or white, a false dichotomy. Exactly, RJ. That's why people play this stupid game of people of color. I'm a person of color. I'm pink. There's no such thing as whites. This isn't white. This is closer to rouge or pink. And they're all shades and hues of white. It is the definition of weak-minded people who seek to divide us. If we were different races, we wouldn't have offspring. Social construct. Race is garbage. It's utter nonsense. Human beings are human beings. Homo sapiens are Homo sapiens. But you see the attachment in America and in South Africa to race to fall back on. It's disgusting. It's vile. And it needs to stop. Human beings should be treated as human beings across the board. Pretty simple, folks. Pretty simple. Yep. Yes, Funk Dunk, most of the talents in the Free State are a mess, and they do vote for the ANC. Denny Gravenstein, that's an unusual name. The ANC is one big joke. Yeah, it is a disgrace, and it's a betrayal of liberation movement. Wow, it's getting cold, says Vilma. I'm sorry to hear that it's cold. Vanna Kruger, yeah, I'm willing to do my part to help prove South Africa. I'm tired of being called a colonizer when I was born here. It had nothing to do with apartheid. You shouldn't feel guilty, Vanna Kruger. You're 100% right. You shouldn't feel guilty. You had nothing to do with it. You did nothing wrong. So, forgetting how important BE is to the ANC. The majority voted for, what is that, fear politics, says Nick Stevens? That may be the case. Hey, folks, be sure to hit the like button. We got 199 likes. We should pass 200 any time here. And we have one dad, one mom. Exactly, James Bowie. That's exactly right. We're all human beings. And these people who are obsessed with race and dividing us by race are just losers. They really are. They really are. They've got nothing else. They can't stand on their ideas because communism doesn't work. Stealing from one group of people to give to another group of people only works until you spend all their money. Then there's nothing left. However, a free market, proper education system, and liberty, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of worship, these are the things that lead a society to success. The role of government should be small and confined to ensuring a level playing field. And government officials should not be permanent employees who suck down a salary. They should be people who are successful in society, who come to government to contribute to society, likely taking a smaller salary for a short period of time to benefit the public at large and the country as a whole. That's what government should be. Not people who spend their entire life in office. Not people who never accomplish anything except draw a government salary and suck off the teat of the taxpayer. That's what governance should be. Servant leadership. You serve the people. They don't serve you. But it's all flipped upside down all over the world. Mbuzi Buthelezi said it would be better if all the progressive political parties boycott the first thing in the parliament so that the quorum won't be met and we get I'm sorry, Mbuzi, your sentence doesn't make sense, but I think what you're trying to say is so you won't have the quorum and then you'll get an early election. Well, yeah, there could be another election. Thanks, Colonel. Eat my 40 winks. Good night, Sandy. Thanks for being here. 208. And it's only one color, it's red, the color of our blood. Yeah, which apparently isn't red until it comes out and gets oxygenated. At least that's the story I was told as a kid. That's why it appears to be blue. But then I was told that's actually not true. It is red. It just appears to be blue or green because of our visualization of light with the skin blocking it. Anyway, that's what I was told. I don't know if that's true, but it definitely turns red when it comes out. And when it comes out of a black person, a white person, a brown person, it comes out red. The country will keep dropping because of racism. Yeah, racialism is a law of nature. Communism is government of diminishing returns. Exactly, Charles. Right. All right. I do thank people for being here. It's pretty awesome. This again, Jacob Zuma's lost the plot. He's doubled down on threats to the IC. He says he's going to sue them or take them to court now. South Africa is the best country in the world. I just love our diversity, kindness, people in the world. Yeah, Conrad, and see, that's the thing. Thank you very much for sharing that, Conrad, the spot. The thing about it is that in my travels, whether it's with Tswana speakers in Northwest, or Zulu in KZN, or Basotho in the Free State, or Afrikaners all over South Africa, English speakers all over South Africa, Xhosa down in this part of the country, colors that I meet, it doesn't matter. Most people are pretty cool. They're not trying to take advantage of other people. They just want to live a life of peace. They want to live a life of prosperity. They want to worship in their own fashion. They want to raise their children unmolested. They want to be protected in their homes. They want to have opportunity. Yes, they want gadgets. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't think a big priority for them is Energade, but it is for me. But most people just want to get along. And very few people, fortunately, very few South Africans are actually genuine racists. But there are plenty of black, white, and brown racists in South Africa. And it's really sad. It's really sad. Often what is called racism in South Africa is simply bigotry. And bigotry is a learned behavior which can be unlearned. So, most unequal society on earth. Yeah, and Ndonga keeps going back to Gini coefficient. The United States has a relatively high Gini coefficient, but almost nobody lives in the kind of poverty that South Africans have. So your argument doesn't hold water. Mandela built the Rainbow Nation color, should never be an issue. South Africans all stand together. Well, I agree with that, Mario. What else? Verna says, trust me, people are close to being pushed too far. And if bills like expropriation and compensation get forced forward, civil wars are inevitable. Well, speaking of that, if Donald Trump is put in shackles and put in prison, America will have a civil war. It's coming, man. It's coming. Okay, Sean says, Chris, let's be honest. Jacob Zuma has always had a troublesome relation with basic mathematics and simple numbers. At least his age eventually surpasses IQ. Oh, good Lord, that's harsh. 134 is needed to form a quorum and 201 to elect the president. Thank you for that information. Yeah, so I'm surprised you only need 134 to make a quorum. Normally, in a situation where you have to have a quorum, it's 50 plus 1, which would be 201. So thanks for that, Prince Chibakulu. Biggest irony about South Africa is people actually practice Ubuntu. It's amazing how many South Africans will help complete. Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. Once again, let me go back to when I came here on my first trip back to South Africa after the COVID scam. When I came back in 2022, I was in Northwest, and I came back from a night where I spoke to the farmers, and then stayed at Koketso Ratsani's mother's home. She was a lovely host. Then I skirted a service delivery protest, which forced me to drive 40 kilometers out of my way. I drove back, and when I got to Rustenburg, I stopped at my McDonald's there, got my food, got in a car, headed down the road, got off to go into the Mahalisburg, and going down the road, there's two massive potholes, and I was going 40 in a 60 zone. I couldn't swerve to the left because it was bush. Couldn't swerve to the right because the car was oncoming. I tried to slow down, but it wasn't fast enough. Blew two tires, bent the snot out of the rims in this Renault Kwid. Yeah, I know, Renault Kwid, pretty crappy. So I drove slowly up to a tuck shop, which was about 200 meters away. I pulled in there, and Indian owns it. I didn't even know there were Indians in Northwest. I'd never seen one before. So Indian gentleman who gave me a couple tools. And then I ran into an Afrikaner outside who had a small air compressor to reinflate the tires. He helped, and then a younger Afrikaner came along. And then a Swana speaker came who had a utility truck with all kinds of tools. When I opened the boot of the Kwid, there was no handle for the jack, and there was no lug wrench to take the lug nuts off. Thank you, Avis. So this was my rainbow rescue. People could have left me stranded, didn't have to help me. There was no expectation of compensation, but I did give that gentleman a nice wad of cash for his time. So Indian, black, Tswana speaking, and white Afrikaner came to my rescue and helped me get the tires fixed, the rims bent back into shape, and back on the road. I moved down the road. I went to Sterkfontein, to the Cradle of Mankind, where I met up with Chris Marie, and we went and did the tour, which I'd done previously. We tried to get other people, nobody else showed up. It was nice for her to show up. My rainbow rescue. South Africans, by and large, don't care about race. It's nonsense perpetrated by weak-minded losers. If you're born in South Africa, you're South African, regardless of skin color, says Nora Moggs. 100%. Yep. That's right. Whites voted to dismantle apartheid and dismantle it before the ANC took over. Before the ANC won in 94, apartheid was gone. By 1992, it was gone. Yep. It's just race baiting by the ANC. Selfish politicians' problem, says James Bowie. Boy, Ndonga is just stuck on this Gini coefficient. Dude, you got to get past that. Yep, and yeah, there are many white South Africans living in informal settlements anymore. And but we get this from black supremacists all the time. Well, the whites don't know what poverty is. They don't live in poverty. What a bunch of crap that is. Even under the National Party, there was still a number of whites who lived in poverty. Not a significant number, but a number. And that number has grown exponentially since the ANC's taken over, and especially in the last 15 years. Hundreds of thousands of white South Africans living in abject poverty in informal settlements. Remember during the lockdown when SABC went to Pretoria, went north of Pretoria to an informal settlement, walked up to the gentleman in charge of the place. Now it's almost entirely whites, but there's a handful of colors who live there. And he said to him, do you not have a problem? Here, use the microphone. Do you not, this is an SABC reporter, dirt poor people living in shacks just like black South Africans. Do you not have a problem? Or why is it that you don't let black people live here? The Afrikaner, the informal mayor of this shack settlement, is gobsmacked. He's like, and I know what's going through his head, why would anyone want to live here? No one's banned from living here. Why are there no whites who are poor invited to live in Shoshaguve or Alexandria or Mitchell's Plains or Khayelitsha? Because people tend to cluster with people who they know, who they're familiar with. These people are living in abject poverty, no money, no food, no resources, completely neglected by the government. They don't get SASA grants. They don't get retirement checks. They're denied all of this because they're white by corrupt officials. And the SABC reporter had the audacity to say, why is it you don't let black people live here? The guy's like, they can live here if they want to live here. They can come here. Who said they can't be here? Stupid people. You should wear signs. BE is a scheme for the ANC to create millionaires and billionaires to connect the ANC. Correct. Or just no country's perfect. We all need to demand better of our governments, institutions, ourselves. A lot of room for progress. And yes, you're right. Percentage is high as the whites are decreasing. No, the actual number is high. And the number of whites is not decreasing. That's a fairy tale. That's a fairy tale. South Africa has 4.8 million white population. That's pretty much where it was 20 years ago. Actually, around the same number. It would be much higher if a lot of whites hadn't emigrated from this country, and if they weren't targeted, it would be much higher. But when you can't get a job, so you have no money to raise kids, you don't have kids when you're a responsible person. When you're excluded from government contracts, excluded from government service, denied access to university, when you're denied a bursary when someone else gets it based on their skin color, then you start your family later in life if you start one at all. But whites are 4.8 million in this country. Look up SA statistics. 4.6, 4.8 million. You can take whatever figure you want. But that's, the white numbers are consistent. They're declining as a percentage while the black population grows in this country. In 1911, when the first formal census was conducted in South Africa, 20% of the population was white. Over 1 million whites. Today, it's 5 times as large. There are nearly 5 million white South Africans, and in 1911, a century ago, there were 1 million. But there are only 3 million black South Africans back then, and today there are 43 million, plus 6 million illegal aliens. That's why whites are a smaller percentage population, not because they're smaller in number. So in Tonga, Tonga tells Werner, yes, the ANC did it for 30 years and saw black poverty increase. That's why a radically leftist coalition must govern. You've had a radical leftist government in power that's tried to steal from a diminishing tax base and give to people and make them wards of the state in perpetual poverty, generational poverty created by the ANC. And you think that more leftist works? How'd it go for the Soviet Union? How'd it go for communist Poland? The German Democratic Republic? Yeah, they made some really lovely cars. You ever seen a Wartburg? A Trabant? A Trabi? Yeah, that went really well. Remember those big flat screen TVs that came from the Soviet Union? Oh, that's right. They didn't have any of those. Their cell phones, their luxury goods, they didn't have any of that. So we need a radically leftist government. No, we need a free market system devoid of racism and a balanced, objective government that provides a judicial system so that those who are aggrieved can seek redress in a court for someone that cheats them, the rule of law so people can conduct commerce and live their lives in peace. That's what is needed, not a radical leftist government. That's just funny and dumb. I'm glad to see you back. You must be bored. Fred Miller says, have you heard from Uppington? Yes, it would be nice to see me and Vinant have a chat. I agree. I have not heard from Uppington. I sent a voice note to Vinant earlier. I have to lay out my trip, folks. So if I don't hear from Vinant tonight or tomorrow morning, then it looks like Uppington's not going to happen. I'm not going to fly to Uppington, which costs a lot of money. It's not, if it was a $60 flight, I'd take a flyer and I'd just go up there, rent a car, and go around. And if Vinant gets back with me, great. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But I'm not going to fly all the way to Uppington and spend hundreds of dollars when I don't know anyone up there. There really isn't anything I need to see up in Uppington. So I do hope I hear back from him. He must be very busy, would be my expectation. He's a really good guy. Whites are not excluded from government contracts. Colonel, only white law firms and white accounting firms get government contracts. Nope. That's untrue. You have to have BEE in order to qualify for most government tenders. And you know that to be a factual. No, I'm going to stop misleading people. Ludwig says, hence the mention of percentage, same as what's happening to say percentage-wise immigration in sanctuary states. Yes, the United States white population today is significantly larger than it was when I was born. When I was born, some years ago, white population of the country was 89%. 89% was white, considered white. But I mean, that includes Italians and Arabs, so they were considered white. So 89%. Today, that figure is 76 because of Hispanics. Most of them consider themselves white. But if you strip Hispanics out, the white population is more like 59, 62%, something like that. So 62%, let's just go with that figure, of 300 million is 330 million is almost 200 million, but it's actually higher. So, yeah, but white population when I was born was about 120 million. So it's a 50% increase, anyway, or more. Richard Kuhn says, as a SADF vet, was wounded and choppered out. Men I served with, all races volunteered. Radio call went out. We need A+ blood. Exactly, Richard Kuhn. Exactly right. Brothers in arms, and skin color didn't matter. Another sign of disaster. Whoops, they got ahead of me there. Another sign. What's this? Disaster dramatic movement is if they cheer in Kremlin style. Yeah, exactly. Andile says, I don't think you're not being fully honest, Chris Wyatt. Having the ability to leave a country is a privilege. I really don't understand what you mean, Andile. How you say I'm not being fully honest? How so? Having the ability to leave a country is a privilege. Don't understand. Who's talking about leaving the country? Please elaborate what you mean by that. Also, Chris, I know of people tendering for contracts, got anonymously called and told his whole life to him and threatened to kill his family and go back on the tender. Yeah, no. And we see this in the construction industry. People's lives are threatened if they're white to pull out. Yep, no, we've seen it. But black folks are also threatened if it's the wrong company. So, but thank you for that, Werner. Willing to bet that there are probably just as many blacks that left out there as whites. Oh, no, Charles. Who said that? No, of course. No. It's not just whites. In the early 1990s, after apartheid ended, the majority of people emigrating away from South Africa were whites, and most of them at that time happened to be Afrikaners, moving to Perth, moving to New Zealand, moving to the UK, a small number moving to the US and Canada. But that has changed. The majority of people that are leaving the country now are educated. Educated people are black, white, and brown. Go to New Zealand. If you go to Auckland, the majority of Safas that you run into tend to be Afrikaans-speaking South Africans. Go to Wellington, and the majority of South Africans you run into are coloreds. Yeah, no. Go to London, to Canary Wharf, and the majority of South Africans you run into are black South Africans who work in finance. No. Everybody leaves South Africa who's got an education. Yep. Ryan Stone, racism, 19th century pseudoscience. 100%, Ryan. Agree with you 100%, brother. It is. Nehemiah Fredericks, I never said that the San, the Nami, and Khoi groups were all mixed with Europeans. Where are you getting that from? I never made that claim. You're twisting the words. I said coloreds are descendants of these groups of people mixing. There are 50,000 San still in South Africa who survived smallpox and wars of attrition from the Nguni-speaking peoples and from the Europeans. and there are hundreds of thousands of Khoi in Khoi groups. So I don't know where you got that from. I never said that. What else? Erica said, strange how all the luxury goods were stolen. Why are there so many Zimbabweans, Malawans, Congolese, Mozambicans, Sutu in this terrible country? Yeah, that's a good question, Garrett. Yep. Still looking for a recipe for deep fried Samsung. Per capita, very few blacks are educated, so your black immigration thoughts are exaggerate. Well, in Donga, that's simply fiction. I've been to Canary Wharf and I've met black South Africans, and more than one. And I've been to the UK and met plenty of non-white South Africans and non-Afrikaners. And I've also, as I said, been to New Zealand and I've been there. So, you can tell me what you want, but I've actually seen it. I've also seen the figures from these countries of immigrants from South Africa. So you can say that. You can make that claim. I can make my claim. Problem is I can back my claim up. You can't. All right. So, wow. So listen, folks, I got to thank all the people who watched my channel earlier. What is this? The third stream we've done today or third video or something like that. We did a video prepared this morning. I was going to do another one tonight about the Democratic Alliance, which will piss off a lot of white folks, a lot of colored folks, and I'll still get flack from black supremacists just the same. But my Ramaphosa Secret Negotiations video I did earlier, that one is 11,800 views and 34 subscribers joined because of it. Thank you for that. However, the live stream I did earlier today just took off the one I always had an hour to spend. That was ANC Internal Revolt. That video is now at 21,800 and 1,200 people watched it last hour. While I've been live streaming, 1,200 other people watched that video. That was sweet. That was absolutely sweet. So thank you for that. That's the best live stream that I've had in some time. What with all the suppression from YouTube, it's really nice to see it not working out here while I'm in South Africa. So thank you so much for all the viewers who hit that. Wow, right now I have 66,000 views in the last 48 hours. That's how it used to be on my channel before the suppression came into effect. So it's nice to see those numbers up again. Now, to be fair, a lot of this is because there's an election here, but I've been covering the South African election all along for months now, and I covered the municipal elections even in greater detail. But to be fair, the municipal elections didn't have the impact that they could have had, and a lot of people really didn't care about it. So that really wasn't all that important. But this has been a significant election, and it has gotten a lot of people's attention in South Africa and abroad. Fascinating stuff. Really excited about that. So thank you all so much for that. Tomorrow, I'll either do it tonight, probably not tonight because it's a bit late, 11:30. I'll make a video in the morning about the ANC. Vesa Lemmer says something to Garrett. Yeah, no, we've also run over a threshold on subscribers again. We're 16,149. We're headed back towards the 23,000 we once had. Yep. So what's going on here? You guys are chatting here. 35% pass rate, except it's 30% Vanna Kruger, 30, 30, 30, and 40 in your mother language. According to the Social Research Foundation report, 16% of black people say they're considering immigrating compared to 55% of colored and 55% of Indian. Well, thank you for that. I didn't see that poll, Ludwig Schur. That's very kind of you. Listen properly. We all know he's not good with maths. He's got 300,000, 2 million, and 20 votes. Did you know early settlers educate themselves and their kids? No schools. Think you guys must do the same and stop crying, says JPAC. That's true. There were no schools to educate folks. They had to learn how to do it at home. Homeschooling was the way for centuries. Yep. All right. So good night, Vilma. And who else is here? Tommy. Hey, Tommy. Thank you. Congrats on the subs. Yeah, but Tommy, but it ought to be back at 50,000 or something like that. But we'll keep pushing. We'll keep trying. Hopefully keep attracting people and becoming subscribers. Listen, everybody who contributed to the chat tonight, including Donga, thank you so much for your chat. Vaymeyer says, it's unfortunate that everything in South Africa is about black and white, especially the last 30 years. But it's not, Vaymeyer. It's not. When you talk to South Africans, that's not usually something that comes to mind. It's not a consideration for them. I mean, again, my channel, this program, talks about South Africa. The race comes up because people force the race issue. But I have gone to the Basotho Cultural Village in the Golden Gate Park to promote the Basotho people and their history and their culture. I have spoken to Tswana, including Dax, the panel beater, to promote the Tswana language and the Tswana culture. I've gone to the Bafokeng people. I've done so in Botswana as well. I promote Afrikaans and Afrikaners and Afrikaans music here for Afrikaners and for colored South Africans. I've been very open and objective about all these. I've covered the Zulu. I've covered historical sites of great significance to Zulu, to Afrikaner, the Blood River site, the Church of the Vow, Gelofte Kerk in Pietermaritzburg. I've been to battlefield sites all over South Africa. I have been to the concentration camp memorials in South Africa. I've covered so many things, the Anglo-Boer War. I've covered economy, apartheid. I've covered the natural beauty of this gorgeous country, the people I've tried to promote. But people who know this channel and know me well know that I have an affinity for Afrikaners, for Tswana, and for the Basotho people. And I try to promote them. I've tried at length to promote the new language, which is a Khoi language, and it's dying out. One last first language speaker that we're aware of, and it's Oma Katarina Esau, who lives in Uppington. Another reason I like to go to Uppington, she's 88 or 89 years of age now, and the last known first language speaker of Nu, a language they thought was extinct, but 30 years ago, they did a call out and they advertised in the paper for anyone who spoke, and they found out there were a few dozen people who still spoke the language. She wrote a book in her late 80s, a children's book, so that people can preserve the language. Her granddaughter's trying to save it, but I've had no luck contacting them. I believe in the human spirit. I believe in the good nature of people at heart, but I'm also not a namby-pamby lunatic who doesn't accept and understand the malicious and evil nature of segments of our society, black, white, and brown, Christian, Muslim, Jew, Buddhist, Hindu. It doesn't matter. There are evil people who will take advantage of others in a heartbeat. There are evil people who will rape, murder, plunder in a heartbeat. This is why we form governments as a polity, to represent our common needs, to protect our common needs, like defense and sovereignty. And we have judicial systems and the rule of law to protect people from those who would prey on the weak and vulnerable. And that is why we have that. So there you go. Charles found my video on the Basotho village fascinating. It was very educational. Thank you for that, Charles. My tour guide was fantastic. I gave him a nice tip. I also interviewed Noto on this channel. Yes, that's a person who's handy capable. She's a candidate for, was a candidate for Action SA. Dropping a buck said the majority tax-paying middle-class South is no longer mostly whites, which has now come back to bite the ANC. That's true democracy. Thank you, Dropping a Bucket. And as I pointed out on my video and my analysis of the election, I did a video. Cyril Ramaphosa's cynical effort to sign the National Health Insurance Bill into law, assuming that black South Africans, and we go back to the race here, the black South Africans just want handouts. That's what he did it for. And that would curry enough votes so that the base in the Eastern Cape, Limpopo, and Mpumalanga, the Northern Cape and Northwest would come out and vote in droves for the ANC because we're giving you the same health care that the whiteys get. That's what Ramaphosa hoped for. But it backfired because the black middle class is larger than the white population. The entire white population, not the white middle class, the entire white population is lower than the black middle class at this stage. Therefore, those people, most of them earn their way into the middle class. Most of them appreciate being middle class. Most of them are ratepayers and taxpayers, and they like their private medical aid. They like getting a doctor who takes care of them and their family. And when Ramaphosa threatened to nationalize health insurance and health care and steal that from people who earned it, they weren't just taking it from whitey. They were taking it from black South Africans. And that's why the ANC lost this election. Because they take black South Africans for granted. They don't care about black South Africans. It's utter nonsense. If you think they care about black South Africans, you're not paying attention. You are not paying attention. Conrad says, thanks for the chat. Good night. I'm heading to bed. Thank you very much. We're going to wrap it up here shortly. What else? What else here? Hey, Joe. Good evening to you. And I was there this year. Royal Natal National Park Hotel is no more. Very sad. No, it's gone. I know. It's gone. I saw it. Another hotel that was up there that I stayed at is gone. It's so sad. But those are casualties of ANC's criminal lockdown. Nothing is more insidious than the war in the middle classes and independent farmers in many Western countries. Congo, Chris? Agree 100%. All right. And Donga's gone? Okay. All right, cool. All right. All right, that's it, folks. Thanks a lot for being here. It's late, 11:39. I'm gonna get some rest. I'll be up tomorrow, and if I get things done properly like I want to, there'll be a video about the Democratic Alliance and its results. And some people are gonna be angry about it, and some people agree with me 100%. That's fine. I'm not here to get people to like me or dislike me. I'm here to report the news objectively. Joe Neiman says, am I frozen or is it the Colonel? No, I see you, but I didn't see you earlier. I see you now, but we're leaving. There's Paulie. And good night, everybody. You're very welcome. Bye-bye, donkey. Kele boa. Thank you so much for your time. God bless. And South Africa, it's going to be okay. It's going to be bumpy, but it's going to be okay. And don't lose faith. God bless and have a good night, everybody. Cheers, sleep well. And to those that came to meet and greet tonight, thank you very much. I'll be in Gauteng Wednesday night, and we'll have a meet and greet next week up there or later in the week. Maybe we'll have a meet and greet at Loftus. We'll see on Saturday or Friday. Cheers, everybody. Be safe out there. Thanks for tuning in. Always appreciated. Be sure to hit the like button. Tell your friends about the program and get more subscribers. We really appreciate it. Cheers and be safe. God bless.